Falcon fans, Falcon Nation, Dirty Fanatics United is coming at you live on a Friday night at 8:30. I am your host, C Money, aka Chase, and my co-hosts are here to talk Falcon football. As always, it's my guy Philip, aka Avitz, and my homie, Mr. Robert, aka Megabiff, bringing you Falcon content during the offseason. Yes, the Falcons are officially taking a break, but DFU will not be taking a break throughout the whole offseason. DFU will bring you Falcon content. DC interviews rolling in hot, Falcon fans. We are going to talk about the DC candidates that the Falcons have interviewed this time so far. Guys, there's some nice names on this list. There's quite a few nice names. There's at least three that we could pick from. If we choose either three, Falcon fans should be happy. Philip, before we get into the Falcon talk, what's going on, man? How's life treating you? How's this one? Well, it's been a week now since we talked Falcon football. Last Friday was when we did the Tampa Bay recap, or last Sunday was the Tampa Bay recap. So it's almost been a week, not quite a week. But Philip, what's been going on, man? No Falcon football, just a couple of DC interviews. So, Philip, what's been popping, man?
It was a great start of the week, man. Tampa lost to a doink. A doink that actually fell our way, man. You know what I mean? It just felt good. Now they get to join the couch because, to be honest, you didn't really deserve to be there, to be honest. I mean, if we're being real. But, I mean.
So choppy.
But, it's been a good little week. News that we're getting snow maybe, next Tuesday and Wednesday and possibly Friday. So that's be the first time in 8 years since we've seen it down here. So kind of excited about that.
Like that's crazy.
Right. We've never had it like that. But kind of excited about that a little bit. But just besides that, it's a normal work week, and more excited to see these interviews go happening. Certain coaches and everything.
Yeah, definitely excited about who the Falcons could select here.
Got some good picks so far.
To be their new defensive coordinator. Also, don't forget the Falcons are in search for a defensive lineman as well, coaching. So there's two aspects to this hire, and the Falcons have made some nice interviews here in the past week. Breaking news, the Falcons doing interviews. Robert, what's going on, man? It's been almost a week since we talked Falcon football. Obviously, no breaking news other than defensive coordinators and 15 players signed to the reserve/future contracts here for the Atlanta Falcons. Robert, what's going on, man? We're going to break it down here very soon, but before we do so, Robert, how's life been treating you, man?
It's been a busy week, working hard. Started out, we had a pretty good bit of snow and ice last week. Temperatures have been close to 60 the last couple of days here, which has been kind of nice. But, yeah, just missing the Falcons. But, I like what I'm seeing. The candidates are bringing in for the vacant DC job. And once again, it was nice to see Tampa lose to our former coach. And like Philip said, they did not deserve to be there. We gave it to them.
Right.
And it's just that simple. But, it happens. I know as Falcon fans, we're used to saying, there's always next year. But, hey, I'm looking forward to next year.
Same.
Absolutely. Philip, Robert, I'm catching a bad lag on my computer. So streamers, viewers, if you see a lag on my end, I apologize for that because I am lagging pretty bad. I'm behind Robert and Philip as they speak. But Robert, definitely missing Falcon football. There's no way to describe it. I've even thought about starting up a second podcast, a conspiracy podcast, just to keep myself active throughout the off season with this podcasting, because guys, there's going to be a point where it gets really dry, at least a month or two where there's no news release. And then DFU will keep it active for you though. We'll start bringing interviews on. We'll have past players here to talk. The most recent player that DFU was in contact with, Michael Turner, that date has not been set. That has not been official yet. But if Michael Turner could make an appearance in the offseason here for DFU, what a tremendous treat that would be here. We also have the AirPod giveaway coming up very soon. Cody, I don't believe it will be able to make it tonight, but Cody will be back very soon to talk about when that giveaway will be. All you have to do is subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. If you're on Facebook viewing, head over to YouTube at DFU_ATL, hit the subscribe button, and let me know in the comment sections that you subscribed, and you will be entered for the chance to win a pair of Apple AirPod Pros, courtesy of my guy, Cody. Falcon fans, before we get into this defensive coordinator tracker conversation, let's hit the chat because chat's popping off early with it. Mateo is in the chat. First one here to talk Falcon football says, "What's up, DFU?" My guy Nicholas Mitchell said, "Dirty Bird Mafia." That's my homie there. This is actually a Steelers fan, so much love to Nicholas for tuning in and showing love to the stream. Appreciate you, brother. Ron Thomas in the chat said, "What up, everybody?" Mateo said, "Philip has a girl wig on. Glitch, LOL. Just kidding." Nicholas Mitchell said, "Out wide."
Oh.
Appreciation, bro. Appreciate it. Shout out everybody in the chat, man. Bring your questions and let me know in the chat who is your favorite candidate for this defensive coordinator spot here in Atlanta. Let's kick it off and let's start with the biggest conversation of them all, the defensive coordinator tracker. And we'll kick it off right with the very first interview the Falcons bring in the building. A very, very big, huge name with a nice profile. Our guy, Wink Martindale. Robert, you spoke about him in the group chat, so why don't you kick it off? Don Wink Martindale, your first interview in Atlanta. What does this mean for the Atlanta Falcons, and how does this guy fit the scheme here in Atlanta? Robert, take it away.
Well, he brings a lot of experience with him. I mean, he's won a Super Bowl with the Ravens. I mean, he's a proven commodity. And any switch up to defensive scheme will be an improvement. And this is not a personal knock against our former DC. I mean, he did the best he could with what he thought, he was doing, but
he did his best.
We're not going to see defenders 15 yards off the line of scrimmage on every down.
Right.
Martindale's proven that with Baltimore, and he's done a good job with that Michigan defense as well. I think he'll bring the pressure. I think he'll teach these players to play smart, to play to their strengths and cover their weaknesses.
Absolutely, Robert. You hit it key on with Wink Martindale, the guy with the experience. That's what stands out to me. A guy that is a vet in the NFL and at college level. Let's keep it 100. The only games Michigan won this year was because of Wink Martindale. The defense in Michigan was what won games for that team. So Wink Martindale, a big, highly recruited candidate here. Your first interview, I think that speaks volume itself. The very first guy you bring in the building, Wink Martindale, a very, very aggressive defensive coordinator. Philip, your thoughts on Wink Martindale before you get to that? Mama's in the chat with it. She says, "Happy Friday, DFU. Happy Friday, Mama. I wish it was my Friday, but I have to work tomorrow. So it is technically, I guess you could say, my Thursday." Shout out to Mom in the chat. Caleb is in the comment section, said, "Let's hire Steve Wilkes." Another name we will talk about here very soon in the chat. Mateo says, "If we can interview Dion, do we pull the trigger?" That will be a question for later. Stick with that. Mateo will come right back to that question. My guy, Steve Netherland, is in the chat with the yo. Shout out to Steve for tuning in, man. Work partner there. Shout out to Steven. Mateo in the chat says, "Dean Pease won Super Bowls with the Ravens. I think he's going to go. It's going to be Saleh or Silks." To me, Saleh goes to a head coaching position. I feel like Saleh will take a head coaching position. I could be wrong there. Maybe teams don't jump the gun on Saleh, and maybe he can land in Atlanta as the defensive coordinator. But Philip, Wink Martindale, your first interview in Atlanta, how do you feel about this guy? A very aggressive, a very tone-setting statement here from the Atlanta Falcons. Your first interview, Don Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator, University of Michigan, as Robert stated, has a Super Bowl ring and has very, very great history at the linebacker aspect, not only defensive coordinator, but coached at the linebacker, probably the Falcons' weakest point right now, other than pass rush. Philip, Wink Martindale, your thoughts on that interview?
No, I think it was a smart move when I first seen it. I had to think about who is this guy? Because I'm mainly strictly about who we got on our squad as of right now. I do keep up with a couple others, but looking into it, Robert said that he has very good experience of doing the job. He has a Super Bowl ring, like he said, and hell, that's what we need. And again, defenses win championships. That's what we need to bring to Atlanta to get that championship, man. That's it. We got the offense ready. We're good. We just need to build up this defense. And in a way, I feel like this is a guy that'll set the tone kind of and help us bring in what we need to get this defense rolling.
think we're catching a bad lag, man. Is it me or is it Philip, Robert?
I think it's you.
It's yeah.
It might
I'm
be
pretty
me.
sure
I don't
it's
know.
me. So I apologize. No, I'm sure it's me. I'm sure it's on my end. I apologize to everybody. We're going to try to get this fixed. So I may leave the stream here in a minute while you guys take the stage. But real quick, shout out to Freddie in the chat with it. Another work partner. Freddie Wyman said, let's go. Shout out to Freddie. My guy Mateo in the chat said, false. Mahomes proved offenses win rings. Brady proved cheaters win. LOL. Another thing, another good candidate we have to talk about. And guys, I agree with you wholeheartedly on Wink Martindale. I think it's a very nice interview. And I think right now, this is possibly my favorite candidate, Wink Martindale. That's probably my favorite candidate right now. But let's go to another candidate the Atlanta Falcons have talked to, Lou Anarumo from the Bengals, the guy that Jesse Bates gave the nickname, the Italian something, the Italian guru for defenses, something. I'm probably slaughtering that nickname. But Robert, your thoughts here. Lou Anarumo, tough going here this year for his defense, but he has the history, he has the longevity in NFL, and he has the ties with Jesse Bates. Robert, your thoughts on this interview, Lou Anarumo from the Bengals, your thoughts on that?
I think he got a bad he was just dealt a bad hand this year. The Bengals defense in the past has been, pretty solid. Losing Jesse Bates, thank you very much, to Atlanta. It was a harsh blow for him. But injuries played a part too. And, me being a Cincinnati native, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. And I don't care who it makes mad, but your owner's a tightwad. He cares nothing about winning. He's not going to invest in the defense. So Lou pretty much took the fall for that. And, if he gets the job with us, I'm not going to complain. So Philip, what's your thoughts?
Personally, looking into it, I didn't really know much about him, really. But, of course, looking back at it, reading things, looking at him, and all that such things. He has had solid defense with Cincinnati a couple of years. I believe he was there, wasn't it? The Super Bowl year they was there. They had a they had a solid defense there. And I'm gonna be honest, that is the reason they were there. That it didn't end up with the outcome that they wanted, but their defense was solid that entire season. They were a 9-7 team at the time, 9 or 10-7 team that was in the Super Bowl that shouldn't have been there. The teams knocking them off, or fans, everybody knocking them off, saying they shouldn't have been there.
Well, and at the same time, I mean, the offensive line was atrocious.
Right.
If Burrow had just a fraction of protection, they would have won that Super Bowl.
Right.
Absolutely. I missed y'all's guys. I moved the router straight to the laptop, so maybe that helps with this connection problem. But I listened to some of you guys break down Lou Anarumo. Am I slaughtering that name? How do you pronounce that name, Robert? Lou Anarumo.
Anarumo. Yeah.
Okay, Lou Anarumo.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Philip.
Where's your camera?
Yeah, we can't see you, bro.
Really? It's
showing. It shows your name, but it don't show the cam.
It's showing me on my screen. That's weird. What about now?
Still can't see you.
Okay, well, screw it. We're just gonna roll with it like this. StreamYard is freaking tweaking, man. It irritates me. I pay for this monthly, $45 a month to stream this, and it acts stupid every time I get on here. Shout out to StreamYard. Gotta love it. Headed to the comment section real quick. Ron Thomas in the chat says the Atlanta Falcons need to hire me for the defense coordinator. God, Ron, we're feeling like that, dude. We're feeling like that tonight. Okay. But speaking of a guy that we interviewed, Lou Anarumo, from the defensive coordinator in the Bengals, they also have knocked off a guy, Patrick Mahomes, in the playoffs. The only team to do so in the history of Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. So that is a big fact there, that this guy has these playoff wins, these big game wins
multiple times in the regular season.
Yeah. So you have to look at what you're facing here. Yes, you had a bad year, maybe a bad year or two in Cincinnati, but now what could you do to Atlanta with talent that Atlanta could bring in this offseason through the draft, through free agency, and the talent that you already have here? And you have the best safety in the NFL that you coached up to be who he is.
Right.
That to me is huge with the connections, with having a guy like Lou in the building, with Jesse Bates already not the captain of the defense, but a guy that is a big role to this defense and what the Falcons do here when it comes to Sunday football. So Lou Anarumo to me is another good candidate here. That's one of the three that I said, if you choose any three of these guys, Falcon fans should be happy. To me, if you choose Wink Martindale, you should be happy. If you choose Lou Anarumo, you should be happy. My third selection, if you choose this guy, should be another that you should be happy about. And this is a guy that Philip would probably strip naked for. Steve Wilks.
Nah, he's stripping naked for nobody.
Steve Wilks in Atlanta. Philip has a man crush on you. Robert, your thoughts of Steve Wilks landing here in Atlanta, his history, obviously, a lot of Falcon fans that I've had in conversations with and other content creators that I have watched all love Steve Wilks. They all love him. They all love what he's about. But the biggest problem with this Steve Wilks is the history of how long he lasts with teams. If you look at the past 4 years, he's only been a 1-year DC. Each team that he's thrived with, and he's taken a year off. In 2020, he took a year off. I believe in this year he was like an assistant at a UFL league or some shit like that. So Steve Wilks, Robert, obviously he visited Flowery Branch last season, spent 2 days in Atlanta at Flowery Branch, just walking the hallways, they said. Raheem's already stated how they love Steve Wilks, how they love his style of defense.
Even at our
Robert,
season.
Steve Wilks in Atlanta, does this mean sense? Do you like this interview?
I like this interview a lot. He's probably the consensus favorite amongst the fan base, and, for good reason. I mean, he's another proven commodity, but like you said, he doesn't stick around long. But to his credit, he did have a couple of stints as a head coach on an interim basis in Carolina, I believe it was, and with Arizona. Bad teams, but, he made them competitive.
Right.
So,
Carolina of all teams.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it was the last game of the year. Was it last year or a couple of years ago? I don't remember. It was the last game of the year when Carolina was in. I think he was the interim head coach for him then, and we had a big lead on him, and we just about let it get away.
Yep, you're absolutely right, Robert. Steve Wilks, and his time with Carolina from 2012 to 2017, let's be for real, their defense has always been real. I mean,
yeah,
their defense has always been nice.
Even though I don't want to admit it.
Another fan that I had a confrontation, I guess you could say. It was solely a debate for me, but it turned into a attack, I guess you could say. He ended up being blocked on Facebook. But his views was that this guy didn't have he's only had one top 10 defense his whole entire career, and that was with San Fran. They were number one. They degressed to number 3 that year as well, being maybe a reason why San Fran let him go. Kyle Shanahan in one of his interviews said that he questioned one of Steve Wilks' pass rushing plays on a 3rd down during the playoffs. So there's an issue with a head coach and a defense coordinator. I think personally Kyle Shanahan's going to do whatever he can to protect his spot in San Francisco. That's obviously what I believe happened.
The thing about Kyle is, I mean, who is he to question a defensive coordinator's play calling when his play calling cost us a Super Bowl?
You hit the
nail on the head, and his play calling as a head coach has cost San Francisco 2 Super Bowls.
You hit the nail.
He's costed 3 Super Bowls. That's why you a bum. You a
Philip.
bum.
Now this guy here, Philip, has had just a straight up boner all week about Steve Wilks interviewing in Atlanta. And it has finally happened. Steve Wilks interviewed in Atlanta. I believe today the news broke. Philip. Steve Wilkes man crush is real.
Oh, okay, buddy. Okay.
Your thoughts on Steve Wilkes, bro?
I mean, bro,
We got another Steve Wilkes fan here, chat. Lyric's mom, Kiki's in the chat with it. She said, "Hey guys, I'm Steve Wilkes. I'm Team Steve Wilkes. He was a coach at my dad and my alma mater, Savannah State. Would love to see him get another chance here." Steve Wilkes, he's the guy, man. The resume itself speaks for Steve Wilkes. What he brings to a defense, the style, and the connection to Raheem Morris and being in Flower Branch last year for 48 hours, to me, speaks volumes itself. So I think, like I said, Wink Martindale, Lou Anarumo, or Steve Wilkes, if you hire either three of these guys, you're getting a very, very much upgraded defensive coordinator over, I done forgot his name, Jimmy Lake. So you can't be mad with any of these picks. Philip, Steve Wilkes, the candidate we're talking about right now, Steve Wilkes, your thoughts on him and his potential landing spot in Atlanta?
I mean, it's just like what we said. He's got a good resume and everything that comes along with it. I mean, hell, it's just like one of the comments right here that Kiki put right here. Even when he was the intern, started to be the intern, Carolina started to be a little bit better. Just
like Robert said, they almost beat us.
Exactly. They started becoming a little bit better when he became the intern and head coach. I don't want that to happen. I want everything to go good. But you know what I'm saying? Their defense has always been solid, and whether I hate, I gotta be facts. Gotta be real. They had a decent, defense between again through 2012 to 2017. So I mean, why not bring somebody that's going to at least do the job? And we already have key players. All you got to do is just play in.
Upgraded Jimmy
Exactly. Now you got to fill in, just like through the draft, free agency of other certain key players that you need to build to make this defense what you want it. And then you have the coach right here with the smarts, everything. He can get it done.
Absolutely.
Simple.
No more head coach having to finagle with the defense side of the ball. Absolutely.
I'm tired of having our head coaches be the ones controlling the defense side of the ball or the offense side of the ball.
It seems like it's every year.
Have somebody to have to be your head coach.
It's because these coaches come in these buildings and they want to hire their friends. I've always been told, never go into business with your friend. Never go into any kind of business with a friend. And that's been the problem this past year with Zach Robinson and Jimmy Lake with Raheem Morris. Two unproven coordinators in your first year of head coaching in Atlanta was a big mistake for Raheem Morris. And now I think he's seeing this with these three different entourage of defensive coordinators that you brought in here for interviews. Wink Martindale brings something to the table. Lou Anarumo brings something different to the table. Steve Wilkes brings something different to the table. None of these guys run the scheme that Jimmy Lake ran last year. So to me, it's an A+ with whatever direction you go here between these three coaches.
Speaking of not being friends, Mike Bobo, he hit the boot today too. So he got it.
Nice.
Really?
Nice.
He's out. He got the boot.
A round of applause for that. Shout out to my guy Keith Simmons in the chat with it on YouTube. He says, "Family, I heard D-Led said that Ulbrich is the front runner. Did you guys hear this?" I did not hear this, Keith Simmons. This is breaking news here for DFU because to me, let's talk about it. Because this is a guy that is on our list. Another interview that has taken place here in Atlanta. Jeff Ulbrich. D-Led supposedly saying that this is the front runner, and we know that Raheem loves chemistry and connections here in Atlanta. You've seen it with Jimmy Lake. You've seen it with Zach Robinson. Now could you potentially see it with Jeff Ulbrich? Robert, your thoughts of Jeff Ulbrich interviewing here in Atlanta. Is he front runner potential? Robert, your thoughts?
Yeah, he could be front runner potential. For nothing else, his familiarity with the Falcons organization. He's been here before. He did a solid job for us. May not have had a whole lot of talent to work with, but he filled in after Raheem was promoted to head coach when Dan Quinn was let go. And in all honesty, he did all right. You got to give him credit for holding his head up and weathering the storm of the interim head coach position in the cesspool that is known as the New York Jets. So,
yeah, absolutely.
He's got to have nerve and steel to put up with that.
I don't know if you got a Twitter account, Robert, but Twitter does not hold back, as all fans that have a Twitter knows. Twitter does not hold back, and Twitter was coming at Jeff Ulbrich pretty hard the last few days about the fact that Robert Saleh created that defense in New York. Robert Saleh would get the praise for what that defense has done, and Jeff Ulbrich walked in on a good situation. We could say that, but let's talk about what Jeff Ulbrich did in Atlanta. 2016, your linebacker coach, Jeff Ulbrich, took you to a Super Bowl. It takes all of your coordinators to do so, and Jeff Ulbrich was a part of that team. He went to New York to be the DC. He had a great season until it started being a clown show. Robert Saleh gets fired. Jeff Ulbrich has to step up to be.
It was good until Aaron Rodgers came along.
Yeah.
So Jeff Ulbrich, yes, some Falcon fans would say this is another guy without the title DC that you're hiring here in Atlanta, which is a fair, I guess you could say, a fair factor of because of the candidates that you have interviewed. Now, if you've entered Jeff Ulbrich and you interviewed, let's say, this guy here, Brown from the Steelers, I don't think this is a front runner at all. I think this is a guy that you brought in, you seen that he was available, you had to hear what he wanted to say. But I think Jeff Ulbrich was a guy. Okay, we know him. He knows the scheme. He knows the franchise. He knows the front office. He knows Raheem Morris. Terry has a good connection with Raheem. So I think where this lies, it falls in Raheem Morris's hands. Whoever he selects here, to me, is definitely a Raheem Morris hire, because when you have guys like Wink Martindale, Steve Wilks, Lou Anarumo, all three of these guys, listen to this. This guy, and this guy have all been to Super Bowls. Every one of those defensive coordinators have been to a Super Bowl. Another one, Jeff Ulbrich, has been to a Super Bowl. He don't have DC titles, but he's been to a Super Bowl. Falcon fans, you're getting an upgrade from Jimmy Lake. Let's keep it a buck. Millie Mills in the chat with it said, DFU, what's up with it? Millie Mills, shout out to you, brother. We just here talking some Falcon football as usual. The DFU way, baby. Millie Mills says the thing is Raheem making them run the bullshit he wants. I don't think that comes into factor. I don't think that comes into factor because of these. If you select any of the three guys that I say is your top runner, Wink Martindale, Steve Wilks, Lou Anarumo, they have their own schemes. Their history, their background is built off of the schemes that they run.
And
what they've done, that you trust, what you hire these people for. You can't hire a defensive coordinator off of a scheme that you've never seen them run.
And then do that. I just think about like Jimmy Lake really ain't had a track record of anything really. In a way, I mean, yeah, he's had some good, but like it ain't like what you want to see. Like boom, it's like a back to back certain situation where it's like you trust him fully. Because to be honest with you, I wasn't high on when we got Jimmy Lake. I didn't know nothing about him, and I seen that he got fired for putting his hands on some kid in college. I mean, hell, that's a good look coming to your first TC job. I mean, hell.
So, Keith here in the chat said, I heard that Wink's philosophy is hit him and get him. The guy's gritty, bro. I love what he brings to the table. Wink Martindale, and some fans may not like this, but Wink Martindale is my front runner right now. That's who I want as a DC in Atlanta. Ron Thomas in the chat says, talking about Jeff Ulbrich, he says, hell no. He's that ex-girlfriend that keeps trying to come back. But like my guy Keith Simmons here says, our linebackers flourished under Ulbrich. Think about the linebacker crew you had Super Bowl season. Deion Jones, DeAndre Campbell. Come on. Like, we could go on and on and on. Like,
even though they lined him up at the edge, Vic Beasley led the league in sack that year, and he was basically a bust.
Hey, I'm going to just put this out there. People can hate on Vic Beasley.
Foye Oluokun, another name.
People can hate on Vic Beasley all they want, but at least the guy had 5.5 sacks, majority of the rest of his remainder on Atlanta.
And
they can hate.
Somebody told me this week that Tack was a bust. Somebody told me this week that Tack was a bust, and yes, I agree. Tack did not turn out how Atlanta wanted him to. They should have took Watt, but Tack. If Tack would have been on your team this year, based off of his rookie sacks, he would have been your sack leader. 6.5 sacks his rookie season.
Tack just.
I think fans are too quick to call players bust and don't understand that some of these players have mental health problems, just like a normal person on the street. So,
and I'm going to be honest with you boys. I mean, when we took Vic Beasley in the first round, I was excited. you know. And, you know, and a lot of people can say, you know, well, he flourished because of Dwight Freeney's mentorship. Well, and that's true.
Mhm.
But, you know, Jeff Ulbrich was his linebacker coach. You know, he was the linebacker coach. I mean, they did put him at edge more than they had him at linebacker, but technically Vic was a linebacker. He was a linebacker at Clemson. And, you know, just if Ulbrich gets the job, I'm not going to be disappointed.
Absolutely. I don't think you can be, man. Like, I'm excited for anybody that these Falcons hire, but please do not hire a guy that no fan is excited about. I mean, I know it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Falcon fans want. At the end of the day, it matters what
somebody's going to complain about something. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, regardless.
You're going to have those people.
Regardless. Real quick, if you're watching on Facebook, man, head over to YouTube. Subscribe for the chance to win a pair of Apple AirPod Pros. It's free, Falcon fans. It's free. It doesn't cost you any money. My guy, Manuel in the chat with it says, what happening, DFU family? So long as we get an experienced guy that can call defense calls, our guys already have what it takes. I believe it. I believe it. That's why I say if you get an upgrade from Jimmy Lake, you are winning. You're winning from what you've done the past season. That kid might have called Lake out on his bullshit. Coach, this defense is trash. F you. I'm tired. I'm dropping in coverage. Shit. Keith Simmons says Brian Cox was a GM coach we fired. That's the guy you bring back for defensive lineman.
I've said that, man. I've said that. Boy, he'd get on that ass, man. I liked it. Hey, boy, it was to the point.
Remember Cupcake?
I was about to say it to the point where Rashad Hagman played like a daggum 5-star lineman over here in the Super Bowl, getting sacks in the playoffs, swapping Aaron Rodgers just with a hand. I mean, come on, man.
I think the Falcons are really going to dive in. And today, just in particular, you had 3 interviews come out today. So what would you guys think? In the next 2 to 3 weeks, you may have a new DC in Atlanta.
I'm cool.
I mean, why not? You've been going in.
I'm just looking at it this way. Any of them that we have seen, I'm not too fond on the one from the Steelers. You know, I didn't really like his. You know,
he's unproven.
I got ran, and then when I see on Twitter, all their fans are saying, "Please take him." Hell, I don't want you, because hell, we did that with them with Arthur Smith, and hell, they could keep his ass.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know,
Smith,
anybody else could be. Any of the rest is literally, to me, in my opinion, better than what we already had.
See, this is kind of what Millie Mills. I'm kind of with you, bro. Like in the next week or so, this breaking news could break loose at the Falcons have found a DC because. Let's look at how we did our head coaching. We brought in a couple big names, and then we started bringing in a bunch of smaller names.
That lasted a little longer, though.
We brought in a bunch of smaller names. Like that one day we brought in like 3 interviews, and then we had the guy hired the next few days. So that's why I say you'll see maybe a second interview come through for Wink, maybe a second for Anarumo, maybe Steve Wilkes, Jeff Ulbrich. These guys that you see get a second interview obviously are the ones that you need to write on your list for a new DC in Atlanta. Keith Smith says, I think at the end of the next week, Wilkes was originally next week. Yeah, he was. He was originally going to be a next week interview, and they brought it to this week. That's why I think this signing could be very soon. That's a great point, Keith. Shout out to Keith Simmons. Atlanta Falcon Fandemic, never far with it, says, when you said Manuel McFarland, I realized I was watching on Facebook. LOL. Shout out to Manuel. Millie Mills in the chat said it's draft season and free agency coming up. Terry needs to know what he likes and wants. Absolutely. That's why you get that DC in the building so we can start scheming about free agency.
It's going to be a big, big year for Terry.
Yep.
This year matters for Terry, Falcon fans. Terry has to hit this year. It could be the last year.
It's hit or miss, I feel like.
It's definitely hit or miss. That's going to wrap us up on defense coordinator tracker. Let's go to some history highlights of this season. Our guy Drake London, not Drake London. Our guy Drake London joined some very big company here. Tyrann Mathieu and Roddy White, the only 3 receivers ever to have 100 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 9 touchdowns in one season. Drake London joining elite company. Robert, your thought on Drake London and the solid draft pick Terry picked and Drake London?
Well, let me start by saying that the 2 other guys in that group, that is some pretty elite company when it comes to Falcon receivers.
Yes, sir.
I was skeptical when we drafted Drake because of the injury history, but he has proven himself over and over again
No,
And-
I'll explain myself.
If
I'll explain myself.
Robert, I
Terry
gotta show
better-
you.
they
after
better
the
not ever let him
podcast-
walk, is all I can say.
Robert, after the podcast, I'm gonna send you a video from draft night of Philip.
This I gotta see. This
We
I gotta
drafted
see.
Drake London.
All right. Let me explain myself here, okay?
He loves him now, though. That's his favorite receiver.
Listen. That is my favorite player on the team. But at the moment, I wasn't too fond. I wanted someone else at the time. I can't even remember who it was, but it was on defense. I wanted the defense that year. But now looking at it, it is what it was the best option. I would not take that moment back for anything.
A lot of Falcon
Drafted-
fans wanted Garrett Wilson, the proven receiver out of college. Everybody
Who?
wanted him.
Who?
Everybody did, but then look what Drake London did. He's gonna be nice. Drake
Year
London's gonna be
5.
fun.
You can't
Another, I guess you could call it history making right here. 2 Atlanta Falcons entering the College Hall of Fame, Mike Vick and Alex Mack, 2 dynamic players for both franchises, whether it was college or NFL. Just
Hot
game
take, man.
changers. Robert, you were there. I was there. I was young. I was a kid, but you were an adult. Michael Vick, his style that he brought to the game of football in Atlanta changed the game forever. Changed what
It's those
quarterbacks do
jerseys.
in Atlanta or do in the NFL at all. Robert, your thoughts on Michael Vick? Maybe just give us a little breakdown on what it was like watching Mike Vick throughout his career here in Atlanta.
Absolutely electric. He was he put butts in the seat. That's what we needed. I mean, we were just a couple years removed from a Super Bowl appearance, and just things were going downhill. And San Diego had the first pick that year, and I remember waking up that morning, turning on ESPN, and said that the San Diego Chargers had traded the first overall pick to the Atlanta Falcons, and I jumped out of bed. I was over the moon because I knew who we were going to take. I knew this kid was going to be something special.
I wasn't.
But just to watch him play, I mean, just the physical gifts and the talent. And it's sad that it didn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
But he's human. He made a mistake.
Robert,
I don't condone what he did.
Do you
but
remember when
Mike was great.
when Vic went to the Eagles and his first ever snap was that deep bomb to what's his name, Deshaun Jackson? I'll never
I
forget
remember
it.
that game.
He was in the
Sean
goal
Witherspoon
line.
knocked his ass out.
He
Yep.
was in the goal line and just throws his phenomenal pass.
Oh.
Michael Vick, man, he was what really started it for me as a kid. Michael Vick was him, and then
Fun, man.
Matty Ice was when I really started peeking into football, and Matty Ice just carried the love over for me, and it's been Dirty Birds ever since, man. So yeah, Michael Vick, and another one, Alex Mack, the center that took us to the Super Bowl. Alex Mack, what a special piece here in Atlanta. I mean,
Yep.
that
Alex, the Alex Mack signing was what solidified us as a Super Bowl contender that year.
yes, sir.
I don't care what anybody says.
Played a great 4 years in Atlanta, man.
Millie Mills says, I agree with y'all. I didn't like Drizzy at all. 6'5" and slow. Yeah, I ain't want that kid, but homie is him for sure. He is definitely him.
I ain't gonna lie
He's
to you.
him.
I think he's
My biggest
progressed on his
problem-
speed since
My
then.
biggest, yeah, he has. My biggest problem was the injuries from college and only having 1 year in college football. Drake London, 1 to 2 years in college football, and he's produced what he's done here in Atlanta is crazy. Atlanta Falcons Fandemic says somebody still can't give a valid answer to why a player that's a Walter Payton Man of the Year candidate is not one of the league's most likable guys. It's sad, man. It's sad. It's sad to see, and it's like that throughout the whole league. Like with these players, like let's perhaps Bijan, a top 3 back this year, number 2 in the rankings behind Saquon Barkley, doesn't make the Pro Bowl. It's sad to see. It's sad to see these players.
Or All-Pro.
Keith Simmons says, family, what if Pitts had Drake's heart? He would be unstoppable.
Absolutely.
Unstoppable if he had Drake London's heart. Let's talk about it. Kyle Pitts, guys, the season's over. Big decision here for Terry. He obviously does not have a lot of cap space. He does not have a lot of draft picks. The scenarios have already been breaking loose. There's been a prediction that Kyle Pitts is traded to Cincinnati for a 3rd-round pick and to me, a backup cornerback. Robert, your thoughts on Kyle Pitts and his jeopardy of being in Atlanta? Did you like what you've seen the last few games from Kyle Pitts and Michael Penix? Do we step away from Kyle Pitts, or do we say, hey, this guy has a chemistry with Michael Penix. Let's see what he can do another year or two. Robert, your thought?
No, I think Kyle's gone. If the Bengals are offering a third-round pick for him, I think that's something that Terry should jump on. Kyle, it might revive his career if he goes to Cincinnati. I mean, just like I said earlier, their owner is a tightwad, but he will invest in the offense. I will give him that. Kyle could flourish there. I don't know what his deal is, why he it just seemed like he quit this year. And we've all been critical of Kyle, especially, after that second Tampa Bay game.
Yep.
But no, I don't think he's going to be around. With his, he was a high draft pick. He's going to have a pretty good market value. I don't think that Mr. Blank or Terry will be willing to shell out that kind of money, especially after what he's proven to us this year.
Yep.
But yeah, I say if the Bengals are going to offer a third-round pick, you take it.
Philip, the question goes to you. I'm a little bummed out about this because I was so huge on Kyle Pitts coming out of college. And I was such a big supporter of Kyle Pitts and what he could have been here in Atlanta. As soon as the jersey dropped, I bought it. And it's what I wore to every Falcon game ever since the rookie season, the 1K. It was like the future is bright for this kid in Atlanta, and it just did not seem to be that way from there on out. Philip, the question goes to you. Is the Unicorns show over in Atlanta?
I've been really harsh on him, and yes, he has pissed me off a lot. But he also calls Penix his first ever interception, but also was the reason that he got his first ever touchdown.
Yep.
Plays for Kyle actually opened up a little bit more now that we had Penix. I've been watching his routes different from when it was with Kirk.
So like the playbook opened up the last 3 weeks.
It was because they were holding out on, Kirk. They knew. We all can tell it now. They know. But, just looking at the stats that he has on this season, yes, we wanted more. But if you look at his stats, it is actually what a tight end stats are supposed to look like. It's really
what holds the weight there is the fact that Terry drafted him at number 4.
The thing is,
that's what holds the weight.
We expect so much out of him because Matt Ryan spoiled us. Him and Matt Ryan spoiled us with that 1,000-yard season, man. I'm just being honest. They both spoiled us. They're both to blame.
Yeah.
But, I like, Robert said, though, if they're willing to drop these picks,
But are we satisfied? Are we satisfied with a day 3 pick out of a number 4 pick in the first round?
I mean, really, though, the past 3 years, he's only had 2 good seasons, really. So, I mean, I can see why that would be a third-round pick in a way. I say you take it because we don't have one as it is now, so why not?
This comment right here just made me so excited because I was so pissed the day we released this player. Austin Hooper to Atlanta, maybe? Guys, Austin Hooper, I loved him. I loved Austin Hooper, dude. I loved
Austin Hooper too.
He was him.
But I'm just saying this. You can say what you want. Matt Ryan made Austin.
You could debate that because he really hasn't put up the stats that he did anywhere else. But that year in Atlanta, the Super Bowl year, Austin Hooper, even with the Super Bowl touchdown, Austin Hooper was.
Wasn't he the opening? Or was it?
He was right. He was the first or second. He was right there with it. Freeman was the first, and then
it was the dive catch. It was the dive catch he had. I remember it.
Millie Mills says Vic made you hold your breath every time he ran. Had me on the edge, like get up, Mike, get up. All right, cool. Mike was phenomenal, dude. What he did in Atlanta changed the game, and it'll forever be Mike Vick. Like,
it sucks that I can only say I only remember a few things
because we were a kid, bro.
When he was drafted, I was still in my mom's stomach. But as the years went on, I did see a couple games though. But I remember in my mind, I just don't. It sucks because I can't
remember. Philip, you remember Chad Claxton sitting in the living room watching on the big old
Phillips
wide TV. Yeah, the big old wide TV.
I remember Warwick Dunn. I remember a little bit Warwick Dunn, but like you said earlier, it was that era of Matt Ryan, Michael Turner, Julio, Roddy, the main one, man. Michael Jenkins somewhat during that little.
Oh, Michael Jenkins was him.
That was my guy for a while. I don't know. I just have a thing for liking the number 12. I like Hodge now too, bro. So
Hodge, you got to resign Hodge. Keith Simmons says, "Yeah, T. Higgins is gone, so they'll need a weapon in Kyle Pitts."
see, it
Could
makes
definitely
sense.
see it happen.
I mean, like I said, you could see him there, but then again, if they're willing it, take it up. You ain't got a pick right there anyway, so.
Yep, absolutely. Ron Thomas says, "Nope, Kyle Pitts is out." Michael Penix is Warner Moon 2.0. Shit. Let's see what Millie says. But if Matt didn't get him his 1K yards, we'd definitely be saying Pitts is a bust now. Didn't it take for really to get suspended in order for Matt to look his way?
100%, because that was his only target that 2020 season was Kyle.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
was Kyle Pitts.
And it was
Yeah,
that force fed him like he did Julio back in 2015. Just being honest, it's because he had nobody else.
Well, and a lot of
But
people were giving
I'm
Matt
not knocking
grief and
Kyle
all that.
down because Kyle was open majority of the plays during that time. You know, I'm just feeling like
we didn't
it's more
have
of
a
mix of-
receiver. We didn't have no receivers that year.
I'm
at
feeling
all.
like it's more of a, I don't know. It's a mixture with Kyle right now being a little bit lazy. Route tree for him is kind of trash at the moment, but it started getting a little bit better. But you know, it's a
Keith
little
Simmons
bit of
says
everything.
Kyle Pitts had 100+ targets his rookie year. That's crazy.
Yep.
That's
Well, and a lot of
crazy.
people were, blaming Matt for Kyle only having that one touchdown his rookie year. But, I mean, the offense
It
was
was
so
a problem his
predictable.
whole career. It's been a problem.
Yeah,
his whole career.
exactly. But, especially that year, I mean, down close to the goal line, who are you going to look for? Who's going to be your first read? The big tight end.
Yep.
It was predictable. Be thankful he got the one touchdown.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I like this next comment.
Next comment, what we got here? Let's see. If we can get him back, Hunter Renfrow could be another weapon for Penix. He has the hand, speed, heart, route running, has it all with attitude though. See, that was the guy, Hunter Renfrow, I was looking for, like in a slot. We went and grabbed what's the guy's name from
Ron
Tampa?
Moore?
That Scotty Miller. When we signed Scotty Miller.
Hell yeah, it was around that was not last season, but the year before. I do remember that.
Hunter Renfrow was a name that I was a candidate for, but it didn't turn out. So yeah, I would be cool with the Hunter Renfrow name in Atlanta.
Yeah, I think the front office thought that Scotty Miller was going to be the next Wes Welker.
Just because Tom Brady made him look like he was better than what he is.
Exactly.
He has such speed though. That guy could take the top off in no time.
I'll never forget Buddy said he could outrun Tyreek Hill.
Shout out. Shout out real quick to all the Facebook likes. Ethan, Manuel, Nicholas, Freddie, appreciate y'all for the like. Hit that share button, get the podcast out. Falcon fans, we are about to wrap up episode 128, defensive coordinator interviews rolling and hot. Falcon fans, hit that like button. Leave a comment if you're watching after the live. Let us know your thoughts on the DC interviews. Robert, Phillip, it has been episode 128. Starting with you, Robert. Give me your shout outs for tonight, brother.
Shout out to you guys for letting me be a part of the best podcast in the world. I greatly appreciate it. It's an honor and a privilege as always. Shout out to our viewers and subscribers. Without you guys, this isn't possible. We do it for you. Thank you so much for your support. Shout out to my family, Brianna, Peyton, Zach, and Christy. I love you all. And shout out to the good Lord above for giving us another day. Eyes up.
Shout out to you, Robert, for coming through and talking Falcon football with the boys here on DFU. Phillip, Mr. Avitz, shout outs for tonight, sir.
Man, like Robert said, shout out to God, man. We here another day. We're blessed to be here doing what we do best, man. We sit there talking about Falcons football, man, and to me, that's just a good day. Anyway.
Phillip, I don't want to interrupt you, but Millie brings up a good point. Before you close out your shout outs, let's talk about it. Tyler Algier in Atlanta next year. If you get trade offers, do you pull the trigger?
It's hard. Ooh. That's hard. That's hard, bro. Because I'm just putting it this way, though. He will be a starter.
Yeah, anywhere else.
He will be a starter. He will prove that he's ready to be a starter.
You get a second-round pick out of Tyler.
I don't know what Zach Robinson doing because you have a chance to do what.
Can we agree? Can we agree you don't let Tyler go for anything less than a second?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly.
I think he's worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
Wrong, but I think he's worth it. So, Millie, if somebody offers you a second and maybe a player or like I don't know, maybe I'm reaching with the second, but I like Tyler Algier and what he brings to the table. I think Algier is definitely a second. I would love to see Tyler stay in Atlanta, finish his young career in Atlanta, finish the rookie contract in Atlanta.
I think he stays.
I would love to see him stay. That's why I'm gonna leave it. I'd love to see him stay, but when it comes to this free agency, when it comes to this draft, there's no telling the direction you may go. Don't be surprised if the Falcons trade back from 15 draft night to get more picks. So there's ways to get picks without trading players. We'll see what happens. But Millie, that's a great question. Fandemic in the chat said absolutely not. Tyler stays until he proves otherwise. The dual back run game works for us. It will, and if Zach Robinson can make it even better this year, it'll work.
And again, the offense opened up a little bit more. You started seeing both of them in the backfield a lot more.
Yep.
Just so I mean, maybe we're getting a little bit what we've been asking for. So
hopefully,
I'm hoping they give him what he deserves. To be honest, because he deserves it.
Philip, close it out with your shout outs, brother.
Oh man, just blessed to be here. Shout out to you boys for being here tonight. Shout out to God again, man. We're supposed to be having snow for the first time in 8 years. It's crazy. Back to back days.
Please, Lord, don't let the power go out.
That too. I got a little bit PTSD from the last storm. So I don't want none of that. So
oh man,
can't be doing all of that again. But I'm thankful to be here, man. Shout out to the Falcons, man. You brought in some good candidates for this defensive coordinator position, man. I can't wait to see who we get. I think it's definitely an upgrade to what we've had. Out of the top 5, I think that we got right now, 5 out of the 6 that we've interviewed, I think was really an upgrade to what we already had. So shout out to that. And as always, man, rise up, man. Can't wait till next season. Can't wait to be sitting there waiting for the draft.
I know. Yeah, we're gonna be live again. Another live draft night here for DFU. That's the fun time, bro. DFU draft night. That's when it really gets fun. Philip, Robert, shout out to you guys for coming through tonight. Shout out to our other co-host Cody. He was not able to make it tonight, but shout out to Cody. Shout out to all the viewers, man. Like Robert and Philip said, without you guys, this isn't a podcast. This podcast doesn't happen. We don't go live. If it isn't for you viewers, we don't bring you Falcon content. So we thank you greatly. If you guys could get us to 500 subscribers in the next week or two, we greatly, greatly appreciate it. We're at 477 on YouTube right now. Hit the subscribe button, share it to a Falcon friend. And if you do so and they subscribe, please message me or comment on the YouTube live and let me know that you had a guy subscribe and we can get you entered for the chance to win Apple AirPod Pros. Falcon fans, shout out to the Falcons and what this offense or offseason could mean for the Dirty Birds, what this could be for the next season to come if the Falcons hit this offseason the correct way. A big task in front of Terry, a big task in front of Raheem of picking this DC, a big task of trading players or keeping players in Atlanta. A lot of decisions to be made this offseason, and DFU will be with you along the whole journey. So stick with DFU, hit the subscribe button, comment, share, like, and most importantly, ring the bell for all notifications so you know when DFU goes live. That's the big part. Hit the bell so you know when our content drops, because we're going to be dropping shorts, interviews, podcasts, shorts, whatever it may be. DFU's bringing it to you. Millie Mills in the chat says Wink or Wilkes for me. I like either one of them. You take either one, you have a dominant defensive coordinator in Atlanta. Once again, shout out to the viewers, shout out to my podcast, shout out to our co-host, and shout out to the old lady, the kids, and my God above. But without him, this is not possible. Once again, it's your boys from DFU. As always, A-Town down, rise up. We out.